Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to say while. That is, how to say that you're doing something while doing something else, or that something happens while something else happens. And in order to say this, we actually need to learn 3 different grammar forms, and in this lesson, we're going to focus on the first 2. So here are those 3 forms. This is just a quick overview before we get started. The first one will be used when the same person or noun is doing both actions. The next form is used to mean simply during a period of time that something happens. And the third form we'll learn in the next lesson means that something interrupts what was going on while it happened. So let's learn our first form for saying while, and you can use this one whenever you want to say that someone does something while also doing something else. Here's the form. Get an action verb stem and attach 으면서 if it ends in a consonant, or attach 면서 if it ends in a vowel. For example, 음악을 들으면서 친구랑 얘기했어요. I talked with a friend while listening to music. 영화를 보면서 공부했어요. I studied while watching a movie. If the verb stem ends with a 릴, attach 면서. So the verb 살다, to live, would become 살면서. Or if the verb stem ends with a pi업, remove the pi업 and attach 우 as usual, then 면서. So the verb 눕다, meaning to lie down, would become 누면서. In fact, this 으면서 form is conjugated in the exact same way as the regular 으면 form that we already learned, just with a 서 attached to the end. And this form can only be used again when the same person or the same noun is doing both actions. For example, the 으면서 form cannot be used to say Mina drinks coffee while Young-ho swims. In order to say that one person does something while a different person does something else, use the 동안 form, which we'll learn next. So before we go on and learn our next form for how to say while, let's do some examples with this 으면서 form. Here are some examples. 운동하면서 신문을 읽었어요. I read the newspaper while exercising. 학생들 앞에서 춤을 추면서 자기소개를 했어요. I introduced myself while dancing in front of the students. 버스에서 내리면서 엄마한테 문자를 보냈어요. I sent a text message to my mom while getting off from the bus. 살면서 가장 힘든 경험은 뭐였어요? What was the most difficult experience in your life? Note that 살면서 literally means while living, but can also be used to say in one's life. 양치를 하면서 재채기를 했어요. I sneezed while brushing my teeth. 길을 건너면서 왼쪽과 오른쪽을 확인했어요. I checked left and right while crossing the street. But if you want to say that someone or something does something while a different person or a different thing does something else, use the 동안 form. Here's how that works. Get an action verb stem and attach 는, followed by 동안. For example, 제가 일을 하는 동안 우리 아들이 공부했어요. My son studied while I worked. 친구가 음악을 듣는 동안 제가 운동했어요. I exercised while my friend listened to music. If the verb stem ends with a 릴, remove the 릴 and then attach 는 동안. For example, 살다, meaning to live, would become 사는 동안. So before we do some more example sentences, here are some notes. This conjugation with 는 동안 is the same 는 conjugation we used when changing an action verb into an adjective. In addition, 동안 literally means a period of time, and it can also be used that way in other sentences. So you can use 동안 after any amount of time to mean for time or during time. For example, 1시간 동안 연습했어요. I practiced for or during 1 hour. Note, the 동안 form can be used to say while when any person or any noun is doing either action. For example, you can use this form to say, Mina drinks coffee while Young-ho swims. Or you can even say, I drink coffee while I watch television. However, whenever the person or noun doing the action verb is the same, using the 으면서 form instead will sound more natural. Alright, so there is another form we still have to learn, but let's do some example sentences using this 동안 form before we move on. 제가 먹는 동안 여자친구가 대답했어요. My girlfriend replied while I was eating. 거울을 보는 동안 손을 닦았어요. I washed my hands while looking in the mirror. 제가 통화하고 있는 동안 방해하지 마세요. Don't interrupt me while I'm having a conversation on the phone. Note, here it's used with the progressive tense, but it still conjugates as 는 동안. 여기서 머무르는 동안 일을 안 해도 돼요. You don't have to work while you stay here. The 도 되다 form, which we use to ask for and give permission, can also be used with negative verbs to mean to be okay even if I or you don't do something. In this way, it can mean you don't have to or you don't need to do something. Literally, it's okay even if you don't do something. 다른 친구를 기다리는 동안 우리는 오랫동안 이야기했어요. We talked for a long time while waiting for another friend. 다음 주의 계획에 대해 생각하는 동안 내일 입을 옷을 골랐어요. While thinking about next week's plans, I chose the clothes that I will wear tomorrow. Here, 입다 is in the future tense adjective form as 입을. So, 입을 옷 literally means the clothes I will wear. So there's still one more form for saying while that we'll learn next lesson, but let's do a conversation practice using these two forms. We have two people, 효리 and 은혜. First, 효리 says, 재석이의 노래를 들어본 적이 있어? Have you ever heard 재석's songs before? 노래 정말 잘 부르는데. He sings really well. 나는 그 앨범의 첫 노래를 들으면서 울었어. I cried while listening to that album's first song. 울었다고? Did you say you cried? 나는 음악을 듣는 동안 다른 것에 집중할 수도 없어. While I listen to music, I cannot even focus on other things. So I can't even focus on other things while I'm listening to music. Note how the verb 집중하다 is used with the particle 에 to mean focus on. Also, look at this part. 집중할 수도 없어. 수 있다 or 수 없다 can also add the particle 도, becoming 수도, which means to can or can't even do something. So again, I can't even focus on other things. 울 수도 없을 것 같아. I think I won't even be able to cry. 아무튼 정말 좋았어. Anyway, it was really good. Or I really liked it. Just as 싫다 and 싫어하다 can both be used to mean to dislike or to not like, the verbs 좋다 and 좋아하다 can also both mean to like. But remember that each verb uses different markers. So this could mean both I really liked it or it was really good. 예를 들면 앨범 제목도 꿈꾸는 별의 희망이야. For example, the album's title is also The Dreaming Star's Wish. 앨범 제목이 너무 긴 것 같은데? I think the album's title is too long. 길지. It is long. 하지만 노래도 다 길어. But the songs are also all long. 다, all or completely, is here being used to mean all are. 어제 노래 3개밖에 안 들었는데 Yesterday I only listened to 3 songs, but 1시간 반 걸렸어. It took an hour and a half. 하지만 난 음악을 듣는 걸 좋아해서 괜찮았어. But because I like listening to music, it was okay. So it was okay because I like listening to music. 그렇게 오랫동안 들었다고? Are you saying that you listened that long of a time? Or for that long? 응, yes. 난 재석이의 목소리를 진짜 좋아하거든. For your information, I really like 재석's voice.
재석이의 노래를 들어본 적이 있어? 노래 정말 잘 부르는데? 나는 그 앨범의 첫 노래를 들으면서 울었어. 울었다고? 나는 음악을 듣는 동안 다른 것에 집중할 수도 없어. 울 수도 없을 것 같아. 아무튼 정말 좋았어. 예를 들면 앨범 제목도 꿈꾸는 별의 희망이야. 앨범 제목이 너무 긴 것 같은데? 길지. 하지만 노래도 다 길어. 어제 노래 3개밖에 안 들었는데 1시간 반 걸렸어. 하지만 난 음악을 듣는 걸 좋아해서 괜찮았어. 그렇게 오랫동안 들었다고? 응, 난 재석이의 목소리를 진짜 좋아하거든.
So in this lesson, we learned 2 of the forms that we need in order to say while. We've learned 으면서 and 동안. Well, in the next lesson, we'll also learn our third form, 다가, which can also mean while. But before moving on, practice both of the forms that we learned today, and I'll see you again in the next lesson. 그럼 다음에 또 봐!